हरिः ओम् श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। ॐ वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Namaste friends. A warm welcome to session 8 of the Mandukya Upanishad with Karika. A story often told by our guru, Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir, is that when someone asked Bhagwan Ramana, how many Upanishads do we need to study? And then Bhagwan Ramana replied, asking a question in turn as to how many mirrors do we need to see ourselves. So it is one indeed. Yet we have been so steeped in samsara through several janmas that it requires the repeated study of our scriptures to reveal our true nature. Today, we continue the study of the Mandukya Upanishad with Karika, where we will study the last verse of the Upanishad and the karikas that follow. Before we enter today's session, moderated by Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir, I request Dr. Ashwini Divakar to help us recollect what we studied in the last class. Over to you, Dr. Ashwini.
Thank you, Panaga. Namaste. A karika has a special place reserved for it in scriptural literature. We briefly discussed karikas 19 to 23 of Agama Prakarana, where the meaning of Om to understand the phenomenal world as well as Brahman is elaborated on, more like an aid to realizing self. Now, Upanishadic verses 8 to 11 hops around the four corners or quarters of the four states of consciousness. Gaudapadacharya emphasizes the similarities between Om syllables and the three states. An inquiry into the sacred sound Om meditation supports the self-inquiry. Taking up Om Upasana leads to mental conditioning and integration, paves way for refined mind, which keeps it ready for Jnana Yogyata. After completing the four-quartered Atma Vichara with 7th mantra, 8th mantra starts off with Omkara Vichara, where total Atma is equated to total Omkara. Now, what does this mean? Which means the four components, that is Vishwa, is equated to Akara, Taijasa is equated to Ukara, Prajna equated to Makara, and the Turiyam to silence. Ninth mantra talks about Akara Vaishwanara identity, which needs to be practiced in the form of Upasana. Now, this Upasana is Sakama and Nishkama. It helps in two ways, Upasana for worldly benefit and other is for expanding and purifying mind. Meditating upon the letters of Om and corresponding universes gets resolved into Turiyam in our Vedantic meditation. Similarly, mantra 10 and 11 talks about Ukara equated to Taijasa and Makara equated to Prajna. Now let us look into karikas. The karika 19, that is Vishwasyatva Vivakshayam Adi Samanya Mutkutam Matra Sampratipattau Syadapsi Samanyamevacha. The translation is, while relating to the letters, when Vishwa is to be identified with Akara, the similarity of primacy as well as the similarity of all-pervasiveness becomes evident. Now this Karika is paraphrasing mantra 9. Here, Akara is equated to Vishwa and Virat in Upasana. The common features like primacy and pervasiveness should be kept in focus in this Upasana. Virat, which is the first quarter of the Atma, is equated to Akara and is more like a rehearsal Upasana where Akara is the first letter in the alphabet and also contains other letters. Of course, the Nishkama Upasana benefits is to expand the mind and for the mental refinement. Sakama Upasana to fulfill all the desires in terms of possession is being described too. In the next slide, we see Karika 20. Taijasyottva Vijnana Utkarsha Drishyate Sputam Matra Sampratipattau Syadubhayatvam Tathavidhim. While relating to the letters, when Taijasa is to be identified with Ukara, the superiority is seen clearly. So also is the middleness. Now, this is again paraphrasing mantra 10. While equating letters and quarters in general, when Ukara is equated to Taijasa and Hiranyagarbha, the two common features of superiority and the middleness should be kept in the focus. Ukara is superior to Akara and also closer to silence compared to Akara. Likewise, Hiranyagarbha is closer to Turiya Brahman. Also is the cause for Virat and superior. And here it is intermediary between Virat and Ishvara as well. Again, the Nishkama benefit is the expansion of mind. Sakama benefit is that the person will have increased knowledge as the Hiranyagarbha is total intellect. He or she will not be disliked by anyone, also will be chosen as intermediary in resolving disputes. Karika 21 talks about Makara Bhave Pragnasya, Mana Samanyam Utkutam, Matra Sampratipattau tu Laya Samanyam Evacha. While relating to letters, when Pragnya becomes Makara, the similarity of being a measure and the ground of dissolution becomes evident. So here, when Makara is equated with Ishvara, the features of measure and resolution ground should be kept in focus. These meditations should be practiced as stepping stones to the 12th mantra. Next slide, sir. Karika 22. Trishu dhamasu yattulyam samanyam vetti nishchitaha sapujya sarvabhutana mandaschaiva mahamunihi. He who clearly knows the common similarities between the quarters and the letters in all the three states is a great sage. He is respectable and adorable to all the beings. In the previous mantras, Upanishad talked about Sakama Upasana. Now, Gaudapadacharya is supplying the benefit of Nishkama Upasana. The fruits of these upasanas are unique to each. The one who practices upasana with the motive of attainment of jnanam will become a great wise person. He understands the identity of silence with Brahman. Worshipping such a jnani gives natural and spiritual benefits, and these upasanas are done one after another. Symbolically, sadhaka progresses from the outer towards the inner. The waking state representing gross world that has to be mastered first. Stage 2 representing the subtle world of thoughts in our mind. Stage 3 representing the causal state of avidya deep in heart space. Finally, the fourth stage breaks through the avidya barrier, penetrating into Atman, the pure consciousness itself. Next slide, sir. Akaro nayate vishwam, ukaraschapi taijasam, makarascha punah pragnyam, na amatre vidyate gatihi. The letter A leads to meditate. Letter A leads the meditator to Virat. The letter U leads to Hiranyagarbha, and the letter Ma leads to Antaryami. There is no travel in the case of Amatra. Gaudapadacharya again talks about Sakama benefit. Now the benefits here are twofold, one in current and another obtained after death. Akara, which is equated to Virat meditation, takes to Virat Ishvara. The Sakama benefit is temporarily loses his individuality and samsara after death. Ukara, the Hiranyagarbha, and it merges into Hiranyagarbha after death until Punyam lasts. Makara travels to Ishvara. The Sakama benefit is temporarily merges into Ishvara after death and not experience samsara until Punyam lasts. Next slide, sir. But what about the fourth one? If one practices the nididhyasanam of silence, turiyam, samsara and rebirth are permanently done for such a person, because infinite cannot travel from one place to another. With this, Gaudapadacharya ends commentary on all the three equations. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashwini. That was a very nice summary of all the karikas we studied in the last class. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. We have come to the conclusion of the Agama Prakarana. What is the difference between Agama Prakarana and the Mandukya Upanishad? We are not studying the Mandukya Upanishad alone. We are studying Mandukya Upanishad with the Gaudapada Karikas. And when we study the Upanishad with the Karika, we will be studying the Upanishad along with various karikas or commentary mantras by Gaudapadacharya. That is why although the Upanishad is the smallest with only 12 mantras, when it becomes the Agama Prakarana, which is a combination of 29 karikas, and these karikas are also been very nicely interspersed. Gaudapadacharya. Now, this Upanishad is called a Sutra Bhuta Upanishad. Sutra Bhuta Upanishad means it is like a sutra. In any sutra, a lot of information is packed, and it requires somebody to help us to see the deeper insights into each of these mantras. And that is what exactly Gaudapadacharya has done for us through these karikas. The word Mandukya means frog, because the Upanishad has a tendency to jump from the waking to the dream, from the dream to the deep sleep, and from the deep sleep to that all-pervading state of the Turiya. In Muktiko Upanishad, there is a teaching from Sri Rama to Hanuman, where he describes Mandukya Eka Eva Alam. The study of Mandukya alone is enough. But of course, the Mandukya study comes at the end of the study of all other Upanishads, because the essence of the Upanishads is taken for granted. So when you study Kathopanishad, Mundakopanishad, we get the essence of what is this Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam, which is the teaching in all these Upanishads. And that is taken for granted. This is the outline. So we have completed, or in today's class, and almost we will have one or two karikas left, which will be discussed in the next class. There we will be completing the Agama Prakarana, which has 41, that means 29 karikas, 12 mantras. And then we will enter the Vaitatya Prakaranam, which has got 38 karikas. The Upanishad, as we have seen, has divided into two major parts. The first part, up to mantra 7, is inquiring, like any other Upanishad, about Atma Vichara, what is our true nature. From the 8th to the 12th is an inquiry or a discussion on Omkara. What is Akara, Ukara, Makara, and Amatra? Essentially, we are using the sound, the name, to be able to understand our true reality as Atma. Om is everything. When you say Om, Om represents everything that you can see and everything that is also potential, which we cannot see. And Om is the name, and Om represents Brahman. That is why Om is also called Pranava. Pranava means an ideal name for God, which includes both the Saguna and the Nirguna aspect. The word Pranava, Nava also means new. Always new. That means there is no aging, there is no change as far as Atma is concerned. Now, this is the most beautiful first mantra. From now on, for the next few minutes, I will touch on what are the take-home message from the Agama Prakarana. The first mantra we should remember. What does it say? Om iti etad aksharam idam sarvam. Om is everything. And so the Upanishad says, Tasya, therefore, Upa, very proximate and near, Vyakhyanam. I'm going to elaborate about Om. And what is it? Bhutam, Bhavat, Bhavishyat. All that has gone, that which is present, and that which is going to come in future. Iti sarvam omkara eva. So everything is Om. What about something in between? Yadyanchat, yachanyat trikala atita. Now, there are some things beyond time. There are many things beyond time. For instance, Brahman is beyond time. Maya is beyond time. Shastras are beyond time. Tadapi Omkara Eva. Everything is Om. One beautiful mantra for us to remember. So, Om is everything. And what does the next mantra says? Immediately we come to the Mahavakya. Sarvam Hi etad Brahma. Everything in the first mantra says Om. Here everything is Brahman. And immediately comes the Mahavakya. I am that which is exceedingly proximate. That which is very, very close. I am Atma Brahma. Now, the first mantra and up till now is supposed to be for the Uttamadhikari. That means if the teacher has been able to convey this Mahavakya, that I am that, the Upanishadic class is over. But then many of us need further elaboration. So for the Madhyama and the Manda Adhikari, we will continue. What is this Atma, which has got 4 parts? Essentially, if you see the teaching, the whole Upanishad is an analysis of the sound A, U, Ma, and Amatra. That is the silence, that is the most important part of the Omkara, along with my waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. And each of these deep sleep, waking, and dream state can be from an individual angle, Vishwa, and the total Virat, Taijasa, Hiranyagarbha, Prajna, and Ishvara. There is a description of the Virat. We must remember this. That means the Vishwa, which is also Virat in Mandukya. In Mandukya, although we talk of Vishwa, Virat, Taijasa, Hiranyagarbha, Prajna, Ishvara, elsewhere it is taken as Vyashti and Samashti. In Mandukya, it is taken as almost identical. Therefore, we have to see ourselves as our head is the heaven, the sun is our eyes, our breath is prana, the trunk area represents all the elements. See, we can see all the elements here. The urinary bladder represents the water element. Our feet represents the earth, and the mouth represents the other element of fire. So this is how we need to have a visualization of ourselves. Trishu Damasu Yat Bojyam. In all the 3 domains, that means in the waking, dream, deep sleep state, there is the experiencer and the experienced. So I am speaking, but I am also experiencing a world around me. Now, both in the Vishwa and the Virat, what is the truth in and through? That is the Turiya. That means, even as you are listening to me, if I am aware of that silent, all-pervading Atma, which is because of which I'm able to speak, because of which you are able to listen, he says, such a person who is pratibodha viditam matam can be involved in all forms of activities, but is not affected by any of them. He becomes asangoham, which in this Upanishad later on will come as asparsha yoga. That means once a person has understood the intricacies of the Upanishads, you can be involved in all forms of activity. Although you are involved in activity, it is like the lotus in the water, which is not affected, not wet by the water, because you know you are only playing a role, and it is a whole drama where I am playing with myself. Other than me, there is nothing else. We have now come to the seventh mantra. There is something called Adhyaropa Apavada. After introducing the first two mantras, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth are called Adhyaropa. There is a deliberate superimposition on the Atma of the waking dream and deep sleep state. And after a deliberate superimposition, there is a subsequent negation. There is the Apavada. And the Apavada starts in this most popular, most famous mantra that we need to remember and understand. Nantat prajnam na bahish prajnam na ubayata prajnam na prajnana ganam na prajnam na aprajnam, and so on. Now the word chaturtam means Turiya, or the fourth. Turiyam is different from Vishwa, Taijasa and Prajna, but remember, it is in and through Vishwa, Taijasa and Prajna. Therefore, there are two terms which we have discussed earlier, which we have to remember, and that is called, what is this? Transcendental and immanent. My sarvam idam protam sutre manigana eva. I pervade everything, Sri Krishna says in the 7th chapter, 7th verse. I pervade in and through everything in a very invisible manner. That Sri Krishna principle, which is all pervasive in Mandukya, is referred to as Turiyam or Chaturtam, which is in and through me, in and through you, in and through this medium between you and me. And yet it is not affected by anything because it is of a higher order and it supports the lower order. This is something that we need to understand. And if you understand, you attain to being involved in activity, but not affected by anything that you do or anything that happens to you, because now we have a new term for asangoham, asparsha yoga. This is the Mandukya untouchability. Asparsha. I cannot be touched by anything because now I know the reality of me and the reality of everything else is Turiyam. In and through that Turiyam, there is a play of this activity. The Apavada goes in three levels. Nantat prajnam na baish prajnam na ubayata prajnam means the experiencer, the limited experiencer, pramata, is negated. Then adrishyam, avyavaharyam, agrahyam, alakshanam, achintyam, avyupadesham. That means there is no object of my experience. So the real me or the turiyam is aprameya. Then what is there? What is in and through? Ekatma pratyaya saram. That which is immanent and transcendental, like the gold which is in and through the bangle, chain, and ring. The mantra emphasizes very much about Ekatma Pratyaya Saram. In all of Vedanta, we have to remember only two words: conscious existence. Whenever I say I, it means only a conscious person can say I. When I say am, it means I am existent. When you say I am, it means I am conscious and existent. What the Upanishads tell us is, I am Satyam Jnanam Anantam. I am not only I am, but I am limitlessly conscious, limitlessly existent. And this limitless conscious existence has been in and through all the states of my life, unaffected by any of these states of my life. And this is the key of that seventh mantra, Ekatma Pratyaya Saram. And if you understand that, the rest things are byproduct. The world disappears into relative insignificance. Prapancha Upashamam. Advaitam means this is called Eka Jiva Baba. Other than me, nothing else really is there in the world. And this is what's called Advaitam. I alone am. The Upanishad uses a very nice word, Chaturtham Manyante. It is considered by those who do not understand correctly as the fourth. But those who understand know that the fourth is other than the first, second, and third, and therefore refer to the fourth. But it is in and through. It is the adhara. It is the support for the first, second, and third. Just like gold permeates the bangle, ring, and chain, but it is other than the bangle, ring, and chain. And because of it, the bangle, ring, and chain has its existence. Once you are in Advaitam, then there is Shantam. It is only the presence of the other that causes disturbance. And once you are Advaitam, you are Shiva. Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Shivoham Shivaswarupa. Sa Atma, I am that Atma. Sa Vigneyaha. With the seventh mantra, we have negated all the waking, the dream, the deep, my body, my family, my possessions, everything has been negated as Mithya, and I understand I am Atma. And this is also called a call for action. Sa Vigneyaha. This is something worth to be known. Very rarely, the Upanishads are so forceful in telling us this is something you must know. I told you also before that there is an Adhikari Veda. The Mandukya is Uttamadhikari mantra 1 and 2. Madhyama Adhikari mantras 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Adhyaropa Apavada. But then many still require various forms of Upasana. From 8, 9, 10, Omkara is given as Akara, Ukara, Makara, and Amatra Upasana. So we have understood what is Adhyaropa Apavada. It is a teaching methodology. Now, how do we do this? When Swami Chinmayananda asked his guru, Swami Taponanda Maharaj, what is this Adhyaropa Apavada? He asked him to bring some water from the Ganga. And Swami Chinmayananda ji rushes to bring the water from the Ganga in a container. But Swamiji gets very angry. I asked you for water. I have not asked you for this container. But then, how do you bring water without a container? And therefore, the teacher, in order to be able to teach this, has to bring it in a form of a container. Adhyaropa, that container. And once you drink that water, the container is discarded. That is what is called apavada. The basic structure I have explained. You have mantras 1 and 2, which are for the Uttamadhikari, mantras 3 to 6 for the Madhyamadhikari. After the sixth mantra, you have 9 karikas, predominantly explaining the sixth mantra. And then you have the seventh mantra, then another 9 karikas. And then you have mantras 8 to 11, a few karikas, and finally mantra 12 with another set of karikas. That is how. Before we conclude the Agama Prakarana, there are some things that we have to remember. One is called Ajati Vada. Ajati Vada means there is no creation. Extremely difficult to believe, but by the end of the study of Mandukya, you will understand the significance that there is no real creation. What is this that I'm seeing? It is appearance. Now, how can you negate appearance? Well, in dream, I see real things. I scream, I shout, I suffer, I enjoy. My experiences are real. Just because your experiences are real does not prove reality. Lord Padacharya tells you, even though your experience of the world is real, it does not prove reality. Wake up. The Upanishad says, wake up, and then you will understand this world is not so real. I have told you about Asparsha Yoga. We know what is Shrishti Drishti Vada. There is a creation outside. With my mind and sense organs, I experience it. This experience of the mind, of the world through my mind and sense organs is called Srishti Drishti Vada. In the dream world, I project a dream world and I experience that world. And this projected world from my mind is called Drishti Srishti Vada. While we study Mandukya, we have to keep the Drishti Srishti Vada as the hypothesis all through. That means even though I'm seeing this world around me as real, but it is my own projection through my Maya Shakti. Let us try to be in Drishti Srishti Vada. One or two important karikas I will touch. Now, for the waking akara, if you want to meditate, the right time. Taijasa, if you want to see the location, it is in the mind. The prajna is the space within the heart. Now, these are all given in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and Gaudapadacharya brings it here. We have just seen, and Dr. Ashwin, in the last recap just now, we had the last few mantras, how the mantras 9, 10, and 11, which talk about akara, ukara, and makara, have the corresponding corresponding with the waking dream, the deep sleep. And if you are doing it as an upasana, what are the benefits that come? Finally, the Omkara is a wonderful source for meditation. Let us make Omkara a part of our meditative experience. Even though we are students of Brahma Vidya, let us also parallelly do various upasana, and let us make this upasana, let us include Omkara as one of the upasanas. The opening mantra for today is a mantra. It is not a karika. It will be explained to us by Ramaji. Ramaji, please.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Mandukya Upanishad Mantra 12. So far, the Upanishad mantras equated the three matras of Omkara to the three aspects of Atma. This mantra says that the Amatra of Omkara is same as Turiya, the fourth aspect of Atma. And the mantra says, Amatraschaturdho vyavaharyaha prapanchopashama shivodvaitaha evam Omkara atmaiva samvishati atmanatmanam ya evam veda. The translation is, Turiya, the fourth is the silence, which is beyond all the senses or transactions, the cessation of the universe beyond all sorrows, auspicious and non-dual. Thus, Omkara is the very Atma. One who knows this merges himself in the Supreme Self, the individual in the total. Let us see the word meaning in the next slide. The first half of the mantra describes the nature of Atma, and the later half, the benefits of understanding this nature. Amatraha, it is the silence. Matra is the measurement or letter. Na vidyate matra yasya saha is amatraha, meaning immeasurable. Amatra is the witness consciousness that reveals the absence of sound experienced externally, or the absence of thoughts or disturbances experienced internally. The lakshartha of Omkara is silence, and vachartha is akara, ukara, makaraha, the three matras of Omkara. The silence is beyond limitations, whereas the sound is limited. In the next slide, we see the four padas of Atma. Chaturthaha, this partless Omkara, Amatraha, is called the fourth, or the pure consciousness. The experienced waker and the waking world associated with Akaraha, the dreamer and the dream world associated with Ukaraha, together with the deep sleeper and the causal world associated with Makara, are not different from the ever-present witness Turiyaha. Turiya is the only reality upon which the three experiential aspects are superimposed. In the next slide, we see the nature of Atma. The mantra further describes the nature of Atma as avyavaharyaha. It is untransactional or non-transactional. Shankara Bhashya states the reason for this as abhidhana abhideya rupayoho kshinatvat avyavaharyaha. Abhidhanam is vak, the speech, and abhideyam is manaha, the mind, corresponding to the name and the object meant by that word. Both are required for any transaction. They are experientially present, but factually absent. Here, Abhidhana means Akara, Ukara, Makara, and Abhideya means the respective Virat, Hiranyagarbha, and Antaryami. The ornaments are just superficial names and forms appearing in gold, the only reality. Similarly, all Abhidhana Abhideyas appear on Atma and merge into Turiya, the only reality. Therefore, it is Avyavaharya. Next slide deals with the Advaitic nature of Atma. Prapanchopashamaha. Prapancha Upashamaha. Prapancha is the world. Upashamaha means mithya or cessation. The mind can work only with reference to Prapanchaha, and it can be Shabda Prapancha, the world of names, or Artha Prapancha, the world of objects, as mentioned in this mantra. When Artha Prapancha is resolved, Shabda Prapancha has no relevance. The mind becomes still, like the fire without any fuel ceases to burn, says Adi Shankaracharya. Shivaha is Mangala Swarupaha, the most auspicious, which is beyond all sorrows and sufferings. That is the silence beyond noise. The absence of duality makes this state eternally blissful and boundless. The next word is Advaitaha, which is Advayam, meaning non-dual. Since everything is mithya, the three states merge back into the consciousness and the three matras into the silence. There is no second real thing other than Brahman or Amatra, the silence. Puja Swami Dayananda ji says, Advaitam is not the absence of Dvaitam. It is Advaitam in spite of experiencing Dvaitam. Moving on to the next slide, Turiya and the Omkara are compared. Evam Omkara Atmaiva. The implied meaning of Om is Amatra and is equated to the witness consciousness. First three matras of Omkara and the first three padas of Turiya are Mithya. Vachyartha Drushtya Trimatra Omkaraha is same as Tripada Atma Eva. Lakshartha Drushtya, that is the Satyamsha, the only reality is the Amatra or the fourth aspect, the pure consciousness. Eva here emphasizes Nirupadhika Atma, that is without Nama Rupa Upadhis. One who has got the knowledge of Amatra Omkaraha, as described before, meditates upon Omkara as Turiya Atma. The mantra says, Yaha Evam Veda. Whoever knows this truth as Jivatma, he merges into Paramatma. Atmana Atmanam. Here, Atmana refers to the lower self merging into the Atmanam, the higher self. He enters the Turiya Padaha just as the dreamer on waking up merges into the waker. The next slide, we see the benefits of the self-knowledge, which is explained through rope snake analogy. When a person discriminates between the real Rajju, the Adhishtanam, and the superimposed snake, which has merged into the rope, he will not see the snake on the same rope again. Similarly, having the mithya knowledge of the prapancha, the gnani attains jivan mukti and lives until prarabdha karmas are exhausted. Gnanagni burns all his sanchita karmas. Therefore, saha punaha na jayate, says Adi Shankaracharya's commentary, meaning he will not be reborn. Samvishati here means expanding himself from microcosmic level to macrocosmic level. Thus, this mantra explains the remarkable liberating percept of realizing the non-dual nature of the self through meditation on Omkara. Here ends the Mandukya Upanishad with a commentary of Sri Adi Shankaracharya. Beautiful Karikas by Puja Gaudapadacharya explains the 12th mantra to conclude the first chapter of Mandukya Upanishad. Hari Om, Sri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much, Ramaji, for a wonderful explanation of the 12th mantra. And when you heard the explanation, you see that it looks like you are listening to the 7th mantra. But now we are not talking about Brahman, but we are talking about Omkara. The essence of the waking dream and the deep sleep state is Turiya, The essence of akara, ukara, and makara, what is that which goes in and through is amatra. The silence that pervades which. And this is avyavahara. There is no transactions in silence. And there is no world prapancha upashamam, shivam, advaitam. And this is something that we need to meditate on. Whenever we chant Om, between two Oms, can we experience the silence, which is the Amatra. There are many karikas which elaborate this mantra. The first karika which elaborates will be explained by Dr. Anupama. Dr. Anupama, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Karika 24. This is an Amatra Karika. Omkaram Padasho Vidyat, Pada Matra na Samshayaha. Omkaram Padasho Jnatva, na Kinchid api Chintayet. Gaudapadacharya says, a spiritual seeker should know that every pada of Atma is equal to every matra of Omkara without any doubt. The first three matras of Omkara are equal to the first three padas of Atma. If this equation is not understood, the unprepared students, the Madhyama Adhikaris, can practice Omkara Atma Aikya Upasana. Here, the utterance of A, the Prathama Matra of Omkara, by the process of Nididhyasanam and Upasanam, should instantaneously trigger the mind of the Upasaka, the Vishwa, to encompass the entire gross cosmos, the Virat. Akara Nayate Vishwa to Virat. So also Ukara Nayate Taijasa to Hiranyagarbha and Makara Prajna to Antaryami. The awareness of the silence that follows Om is Amatra. Amatra is not the silence. It is the awareness of the silence. And this is Turiyam. After Upasana, we have to start inquiry. For example, here we see a bangle, chain, and ring made of gold. Suppose one asks, where is the gold? Or is gold different from the bangle, chain, and ring? Or is gold only bangle? Whatever the questions, we have to understand forms come and go. Gold is always there in and through all Namarupas. So, filter the Nama Rupa and see gold as a fourth, the only reality. What is the inference? There is no substance called bangle, chain, ring. I think that there is no substance other than gold is called Padartha Traya Nisheda or Laya. This dissolution happens with clear thinking. If all Padarthas or objects are resolved, what is the relevance of the padams or names? That means resolution of objects, the padartha, in this case, bangle, chain, ring, into the substance gold, renders the name, the padam, irrelevant. Therefore, the corollary of padartha traya nisheda is padatraya nisheda. If there is no object book, what is the purpose of the word book? When both padartha and padatraya are negated, what remains is only one substance, Advaitam, gold. Similarly, negate the Sthula Sukshma and Karana Prapancha, Padatraya Nisheda, and only one Padartham, Advaitam Turyam, the Adhishtanam, remains. Corollary being the corresponding padams, the sounds A, U, Ma of Omkara, also have no existence. Understanding Padatraya and Prapanchatraya, again, Sthula Prapancha represented by Padam or sound A of Omkara, Sukshma Prapancha by the Padam U, and Karana Prapancha by Ma of Omkara. The Padhartha or Prapanchatraya Nisheda is the same as Padam or sound A, U, Ma, Traya Nisheda. What remains is the silence, the Amatra, the only truth of A, U, Ma, Om. Prapanchatraya Nisheda leaves us with Turiyam. Padam Traya Nisheda leaves us with Amatra. Amatra is the silence, the awareness of the silence that follows Omkara. Matra means measure. Amatra means beyond measure or Ananta. We have seen the definition of Amatra in Mantra 12 is the same as that of Turiyam in Mantra 7. In these four equations, the first three are Adhyaropa equations, and the fourth is Apavada equation. Once we get to the fourth, the first three should disappear. Na kinchit api chintayet. This means abide in silence consciousness, your swarupam, the Turiyam. As Krishna had said, Atma samstam manakritva na kinchit api chintayet. Understanding Adhyaropa Apavada again, just as the pole vaulter uses the pole only to gain momentum, Adhyaropa, he discards it, Apavada, and crosses the bar all by himself. Atmana Atmanam Samvishanti. So, is Amatra silence? The fourth matra of Omkara is not absence of sound. Amatra is the consciousness principle which illumines this absence of sound. It can be called silence with a capital S. Can sound and silence coexist? No. But this silence, Amatra, coexists with the sounds A, U, and Ma of Om because each of these are made known to us by the same awareness consciousness. And this Chaitanyam Amatra is Turiyam. So, Amatra, the Turiyam of Omkara, the Amatra, the truth of Omkara is Turiyam, which is the truth of the universe, both being Chaturtha, Avyavahara, Prapanchopashammam, Turiyam being free of the world of objects, Amatra being free of the world of names. Therefore, Evam Omkara Atma Eva. What is meant by Kinchit api na chintayet? It means the Upasaka should not seek prayojanam from this knowledge, either drishta, like money or position, or adrishtam, like punya. What is the phalam? Omkara padasho jnatva means one who knows evam omkara atma eva. Sam vishati atmanam atmana. He enters the atma, the binary format, the paramartikam atmanam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anupama, for a very nice explanation of the introductory Karika, which explains about that beautiful mantra, the 12th mantra, which talks about Amatra. What is Amatra? Amatra refers to the silence. You know, when we chant Om, the Makara should gradually merge into softer and softer until it merges into silence. The Makara, as highlighted by Dr. Anupama, is not silence, but that pregnant awareness of that silence before the beginning of the next Omkara. The next Karika will be explained by Dr. Chandrakala. Dr. Chandrakala, please.
Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. It's worth that it is revising a little bit. So we have learned Atma Vichara or self-enquiry in mantras 3 to 7 and Omkara Vichara, that is Om, in mantras 8 to 12. So we all aware that four-quartered Atma that includes Vishwa, Taijasa, Prajna and Turiyam is equal to sacred Vedic mantra Om in its totality. So the Vishwa and its Vaker universe represents Akara, Taijasa and Dreamer universe Hiranyagarbha represent Okara, Prajna and Sleeper Ishvara universe that represents Makara or and Turiyam, that is silence. This silence is absolute silence equal to the consciousness principle that reveals the absence of the sound. So we have learned matras is equal to quarters and vice versa. In this Karika, Gauda Padacharya is talking about Nididhyasana. Previous slide, sir. First slide, sir. In this Karika, Gaudapadacharya is talking about Nididhyasanam on Nirguna Brahman and says we should practice Omkara meditation regularly as Omkara is Brahman. Total Atma is equal to total Omkara. As letters A, U, Ma gets resolved into silence, the three universe will get resolved into Turiyam. Chanting Om helps in visualizing the universe arising out of me. The silence following chanting helps in visualizing the universe resolving into me. When Gnani uses Omkara, it refers to Lakshyartha Atma. So, whoever knows this truth being in Jivatma merges into Paramatma. He merges by himself to himself, just as the dreamer or waking up merges into waker, which is also himself. Similarly, after knowledge, the lower self merges into higher self. Coming to Karika 25, युञ्जीत प्रणवे चेतः प्रणवो ब्रह्म निर्भयं प्रणवे नित्ययुक्तस्य न भयं विद्यते क्वचित्. Yunjita, Nididhyasanam or unify or connect. Next slide, sir. On what? Yunjita, that is Nididhyasanam, on what? On Pranavaha. Pranavaha is Omkara. Which part of Omkara? Paramartha Rupe Pranave. That is fourth pada. Chaturtham alone is Paramartha Rupam. First three padas are Aparamartha Rupam. That is Saguna Ishvara. Chetaha. Next slide, sir. Chetaha, that is consciousness. Fourth pada or Nirguna Brahman. So, you may fix your mind on Amatra of Omkara. Why? What is the purpose? Because Yasmat Pranavo Brahmaha Nirbhayam, free from Bhayam. So, Bhagavan, the Bhayam represents samsara, a person who abides in Nirguna Brahman when Nitya Yuktasya, all the time. Initially, it is practiced as sitting meditation. Once Nididhyasanam is sufficiently practiced, it enters subconscious mind, and thereafter, even when worldly vyavahara is going on, mind abides in that, which is Sahaj Samadhi. Next slide, sir. Bhayam kvachit na vidyate. So, no fear of anything. There are many frightening events happening in Paramartha, in Vyavahara Prapancha, but nothing happens to Paramartha Pada. So, remembering that I am the consciousness Atma, that is fourth capsule, never get affected by any event that happens in the material world or the material body. Just as the movie screen is not affected by the movie itself. Brahman is the only source of security. Anything else you hold on will be either Vishwa or Taijasa. There is no security as it is time-bound. For a person ever abiding in knowledge of Om, even during the most provoking transaction in life, at any time or any situation, there is no fear of samsara. So, fearlessness is moksha. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandrakala. That was a very nice explanation of this mantra. Each word very nicely explained. We will have Dr. Manjula Devi explaining the next karika. Dr. Manjula, please.
Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So many things looks like repetitive, but it's worth understanding about Om. We have seen Om as a tool that can lead us to the ultimate reality of the self. There are three dimensions of perception: the waking and the waker's world, which is a physical world that we perceive through the five senses; the dreaming and the dreamer's world, which is inner thoughts that we perceive in a dreaming state through our visual senses or the virtual senses; the deep state is which is an experience of nothingness. In these three dimensions, there's an undisturbed or a consciousness that experiences all but still unaffected by its consequences. And this fourth dimension of our existence is the true self, the Atma. The sound of Om also compromises these four dimensions of our existence in a hidden form. The U, Ma represent the waking, dreaming, and the deep sleep state of our existence. In order to realize the true self, the sound of Om compromises a silence at the end of Ma sound and transcends all the three dimensions of self. So by repetitive chanting of Om, one can realize the true self lies within the self. Therefore, Atma Padas are equated to Omkara Matras. Result is the process of going from Saguna Brahman to Nirguna Brahman and hence become a Jivan Mukta. Next slide, sir. Now, silence externally is actually absence of sound, and silence internally is absence of thoughts and words. Shabda Prapancha, Artha Prapancha, Rahita, and therefore is beyond transaction. Turiam is a substratum in which all the objects, padas, forms, all of them have been resolved. And silence is a substratum where all the sounds, u, ma, are resolved as well. Turiam is a silence which is conscious principle, and silence in Omkara is also the witness conscious principle. Hence, the silence and Turiam, there's no division or plurality and is therefore called Advaitam. It should be noted that Ma represent the Virat, Hiranyagarbha, and Ishvara respectively, but silence does not represent Brahman, but by itself is Brahman, the Atma or the true self. That's why this statement of self realizes itself through self. Next slide, sir. If you look down to the breakdown of the Om symbol, you can see that in the lower bit of the U, there's a waking state where the lower and the large curve of Om, the seeker consciously experiences the mundane world things through the five sense organs. The other side, you see the dreaming state, which is a state between waking and dream sleep, where seeker is experiencing the inner self with the closed eyes. The unconscious state is the upper part of the U, where the seeker subconsciously shuts down their senses and has no desires or dreams anymore. The dot is representative of the absolute state, which is the blissful state, which is the ultimate aim of yoga. The crescent, which is an illusion, is a permanent thing in a human during their lifetime. And this separates us from a higher state of realization. So what we have to realize is there's an absolute state which is the Turiam or the silence, the Amatra. And there's a relative state, which is the three padas or the three matras that we have seen. Omkara Dhyanam is a type of Nididhyasana or the Vedantic meditation. I chant Omkara, visualizing the entire universe as arising out of myself. At the end time of Omkara chanting, the world arises and rests in me. And when chanting is ended with me, the world resolves into me and the silence follows. Initially, Omkara is longer and silence is shorter. Gradually, the silence is made longer and longer. And from silence, I turn my attention to the witness of silence, which is the conscious principle. Then I ask a question. How can I see this witness consciousness? The answer is I cannot see the witness consciousness because I am the witness consciousness. So an upasaka who practices this three dhyanam will get interested in knowing or gaining knowledge of the fourth matra. He'll get his guru and an opportunity of doing the Vedantic Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. He'll come to that Turiya Amatra Aikyam Jnanam and soon become a Jivan Mukta. Everything comes from Om and returns to Om is the ultimate inference. Next slide, sir. The Karika 26. Pranavo Hyaparam Brahma, Pranavo Parasmrita, Apurvanantaro Bahyo, na Paraha, Pranavo Tavyaha. Here, from 25th Karika, you see Omkara is replaced by Pranava, which means ideal or perfect name. Hence, for Brahman, ideal name is Pranava. So, in the first sentence, Pranava hi apara, aparam Brahma, is a Brahma, which is a Karyam Brahma. That is Akara Pradhana, Ukara Pradhana, the Virat and the Hiranyagarbha. The second bit of Pranava in the first sentence is the Para Brahma. Here it is the Ishvara or the Makara Pradhana or Karanam Brahma. The second line of Pranava is the Karya Karanam Vilakshanam or the Apurva Anapara Anantara Abhyaya Abhyaya Chabhavati, which is the Nirguna Brahma. So Karyam alone resolves into Karanam. So Virat and Hiranyagarbha resolve into Ishvara. Ishvara is Karanam and not Karyam. Hence we say Ishvara Saguna Brahman merging into Nirguna Brahman. It is not the actual merger, which we know because Ishvara is eternal and stays even in Pralaya. So the understanding, as Sir said before, is a figurative and a cognitive resolution. There's no separate existence of Saguna Brahman. Next slide, sir. Brahman in totality is the Saguna and the Nirguna components. Nirguna Brahman alone is the easiness that is borrowed by Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, and Virat also. All these three enjoy the borrowed existence and therefore are called Vyavharika. And Nirguna Brahman is the Paramarthika. So Vyavharika doesn't exist separate from Paramarthika. So over here we see that Apara Brahman Karyam is a Mithyam, whereas the Para Brahman Karanam is also Mithyam. The Karya Karanam Vilakshanam Brahman is the only Satyam. So knowing this is very important. The Purvam means Karanam, that is the cause, and Apurva means Karana Rahita. Aparam means Karyam, that is effect, and Anapara means Karyam Rahita. So, Nirguna Brahman without a cause and without an effect, or without cause and effect. Anantara and Abhyayaha. So, over here you see that without a second thing inside and outside. So, Saguna happens to be a Mithya and Nirguna is a Satyam. Saguna resolves into Nirguna and there is no second thing for Saguna as Brahman is one totality. Hence, Abhyayaha without inside and outside. Avyaha, without any degeneration or changeless, which is also called Sadvikara Rahitam. Next slide, sir. To conclude, knowledge is to know that first three matras are Mithya and the fourth is a Satyam. First three padas are Mithya and the fourth is Satyam. And the first three are Vacharya Amsha and the fourth is the Lakshanartha Amsha. So Vacharya Amsha merges into the Lakshanartha Amsha. Saguna Jiva merging into the Nirguna Atma. Lower self merging into the higher self, and therefore there's no cause, there's no effect, there's no inside, there's no outside, and it is eternal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manjula. Beautiful slides, very nicely explained. Although these karikas themselves are very brief, by studying Omkara, you will have so much to understand the depths of what Omkara is all about. We come to the last karika for today. Vinay, please.
Hari Om, Sri Gurubhyo Namah. So 27th karika goes like this. Sarvasya pranavo hyadir madhyamandastaiva cha evam hi pranavam nyatva vyasnude tadanandaram. So next slide. Meaning, Omkara is indeed the beginning, Adi, the middle, Madhya, and the end of all. Having known Omkara thus, one certainly attains that immediately. Through Shankara Bhashyam, this verse is elaborated. Next slide, please, sir. So Shankara Bhashyam says, Adi Madhyanda Utpatti Siddhi Pralaya Sarvasya Pranavam Eva Maya Hasti Rajju Sarpa Mrgadrashtiga Swapnadi Vadut Padyamanasya Vyadadi Prapanjasya Yatha Maya Vyadaya Evam hi Pranavamatmanam Maya Vadishtaniyam Nyatva Tad Shanadeva Tad Atma Bhavam Visnuta Ityartaha. So Adi Madhyanda, beginning, middle, and end. Srishti Sthiti Laya, origination, existence, and resolution. Sarvasya Eva, of the entire creation is Pranava. So Pranava, the Omkaram, is the Adhishtanam of everything. To elaborate this, Shankaracharya gives a lot of examples. Next slide, sir. Like Maya Hasti, the unreal elephant produced by a Mayavi, a magician. Here, Mayavi is the Adhishtanam for Maya Hasti, unreal elephant. Next slide, sir. And another example is Rajju Sarpa, rope and snake. Here, rope is the Adhishtanam for unreal snake. Next slide, sir. And next example is Mrga Trishniga, mirage water. Dry land is the Adhishtanam for mirage water. And Vaikar is the Adhishtanam for the dream. Next slide, sir. Like this example, the entire creation is also unreal. Pranava, the Omkara, is the Adhishtanam for the creation, its existence, sustenance, and dissolution. This is the commentary of the first half, and the second half says, Evam hi Pranavam Nyatva, knowing the Omkara in this manner as Atmanam, to be myself, attain the self. knowing I am the Adhishtanam of the entire universe. As Kaivalya Upanishad says, Mai eva sagalam jadam, Mai sarvam pratishtidam, Mai sarvam layam yati, Tat brahmat advayam asmyaham. Everything is born in me alone. Everything is based on me alone. Everything resolves into me alone. I am that non-dual Brahman. Understanding the Pranava Omkara in this manner, a person attains the Brahman and one with the Brahman. Thank you. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you very much, Vinayakan. And thanks to all the speakers, Dr. Ashwini, who did the recap, to each one of you, and the last speaker, Vinayakan. You know, when you go to the Shankara Bhashyam, you see a different depths to each of these verses. I know it is difficult to go through Shankara Bhashyam for all of them, but whichever the verse that is allotted for you, if you can study with the Bhashyam, then you will understand how our understanding has come through the Bhashya work of Adi Shankara. We have a few more karikas which will be discussed in the next class, and with that we complete the beautiful Agama Prakarana. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hegde, sir, and our excellent speakers, Dr. Ashwini, Madam Rama, Dr. Anupama, Ma'am, Dr. Chandrakala, Dr. Manjula Devi, and Vinayakan, for bringing forth so clearly the wonderful meaning of these profound verses. These verses are the best inspiration for us to include Omkara Upasana in our daily spiritual sadhana, so that we can practically experience all that we're learning in our classes. Friends, as you have seen in today's class, this learning of the Upanishads is only possible due to the grace of our gurus who deliver the teaching in an easy to understand and digest manner. As announced previously, we can now offer our gratitude to the lotus feet of our gurus on the occasion of Guru Purnima, which falls on the 21st of July this year. The decision to donate is purely voluntary. The account details and modes of payment have already been shared in all the WhatsApp groups and on Telegram. We request you to please fill the Google form so that the amount can be accounted for in our books, and also a receipt can be issued to you. Thank you very much for your continued support. We will meet again in our next class of Gift, Gita for Inner Freedom and Transformation, session 35 on the 15th of July. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.